There's this one quote from Epictetus that has stuck with me lately. He says, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do." Specifically, we're going to look at a concept that completely changed how I deal with other people's opinions and external events. First of all, the idea that we actually have control over our lives seems obvious, right? I mean, we make daily choices, set goals, and take action to achieve them. He understood that the key to living a good life lies in our perception of external events, not the events themselves. Let's say you replanning a project at work, and you put a lot of time and effort into it, but in the end, it fails, and your boss criticizes you publicly for the shortcomings. The situation sucks, no doubt. We can choose to listen with a grain of salt and consider alternative perspectives. For example, we create contingency plans for potential risks in business, or develop coping mechanisms to deal with personal challenges. Well, let's take the example of public speaking, a common fear of many people. According to Marcus Aurelius, the only thing we can truly control is our own thoughts and actions. When we truly believe in our own worth and abilities, we're less likely to seek validation from external sources. When I was younger, I was incredibly insecure about my appearance and constantly sought validation from others. I remember spending hours agonizing over what to wear, worrying about what my classmates would think, and feeling devastated when I didn't receive compliments on my looks. All of this stemmed from my need to care about other people's opinions and my desire to conform to societal beauty standards. So what can we do to start embracing obstacles today? By taking action towards our goals, even if it's just small steps, we can build momentum and motivation to keep moving forward. We can also remind ourselves of our past successes and the progress we've already made towards our goals. This can help us stay motivated and focused on the bigger picture. Finally, we can cultivate a sense of inner confidence by accepting our flaws and imperfections and focusing on our strengths and values. When we believe in ourselves and our ability to overcome challenges, we're more likely to embrace obstacles as opportunities for growth rather than threats to our success. Well, one approach is to reframe the way we think about challenges. Instead of seeing them as obstacles to be avoided, we can start viewing them as opportunities for growth and self-improvement. For example, instead of thinking I failed the test because I'm not smart enough, we can reframe that thought as I failed this test, but it's just one setback on my path to success. Now I know what areas I need to focus on improving. The Stoics believed that recognizing our own mortality was key to understanding what truly matters in life. His words challenged me to take responsibility for my own happiness and to focus on what I could control instead of worrying about external factors. Please hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe for more weekly videos on ancient wisdom for modern problems. I realized that my insecurity and unhappiness were the result of my own thoughts and beliefs, not other people's opinions. With this newfound perspective, I began to care less about what others thought and more about living a life that was true to myself. I stopped comparing myself to others and started appreciating my unique qualities and accomplishments. I also began to focus on developing my character and pursuing my goals rather than trying to conform to society's expectations. By reflecting on our limited time and the uncertainty of the future, I became more confident in my own skin and more resilient in the face of adversity. They encouraged us to embrace obstacles and challenges as opportunities for growth and self-improvement. According to Seneca, it's not that life is short, it's that we waste a lot of it. The Stoics believed that by confronting our fears and weaknesses head-on, we can develop greater resilience and wisdom. They also emphasized the importance of accepting whatever happens with equanimity and using it as a chance to practice virtue and self-discipline. Overall, Marcus Aurelius's philosophy helped me to stop caring what others think and to live a life that was more authentic and fulfilling. We can prioritize what's important to us and focus our energy accordingly. So instead of worrying about what the audience thinks of us or whether we'll make a mistake, the benefits of this approach are numerous. By focusing on what we can control and accepting what we can't, we free ourselves from anxiety, worry, and stress. We become more resilient in the face of adversity and better equipped to handle challenges with calmness and clarity. Ultimately, we create a more peaceful and fulfilling life for ourselves. We can focus on preparing thoroughly, practicing our speech, and delivering it with confidence. These techniques help us manage our expectations and prepare for various outcomes, reducing the likelihood that we'll be blindsided or overwhelmed by external events. The Stoics also believed in the importance of distinguishing between things we can control and things we can't. They developed a decision-making framework called premeditatio morum, or premeditated reflection. Instead of thinking, "What if I fail?" we can ask ourselves, "What's the worst that can realistically happen? And how can I make the most of that situation?" By taking responsibility for our actions and reframing our thoughts, we empower ourselves to live a life of purpose and resilience, regardless of external circumstances. This involved anticipating potential obstacles, setbacks, and criticisms, and mentally preparing oneself to respond calmly and rationally. By thinking about potential problems beforehand, the Stoics could reduce their emotional reactivity when those situations actually arose. But as Marcus Aurelius would ask, is this failure truly under my control? The answer is no. There were likely factors beyond your influence that contributed to the project's failure, such as limited resources, shifting priorities, or changes in leadership. He wrote in his personal journal, which we now call Meditations. After all, their feedback can often feel like a direct attack on our competence, even if it's constructive criticism. Well, Marcus Aurelius addressed this issue as well. He said, "People are troubled by what they say about others, but not by what they say of themselves. So it's entirely up to you who you let into your head." This means that ultimately we have the final say on what we allow to affect us emotionally. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Essentially, Marcus Aurelius argued that the only things we have real control over are our thoughts and actions. Everything else is outside of our influence. But when you dig deeper, it becomes clear how much of our energy is wasted on things that don't really matter, and allowed me to stop caring what others think. I used to think I was living my life, but I was actually being lived by everything else. Every notification, every opinion, every random thought that crossed my mind, I gave them all equal weight. I was a slave to my own attention, and I didn't even realize it. Then I discovered what Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, knew that 99% of people today have completely forgotten, and you will have a tranquil life. Now, you might think this is just some feel-good platitude about accepting things you can't control. But if you dig deeper into what he's saying, It can be a total game changer for anyone struggling with anxiety, uncertainty, or a lack of control in their life. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in this video. Let's break this down. For example, we spend a huge amount of time and effort trying to gain the approval of people we do uneven like or respect. Why do we care so much what our colleagues think about our vacation photos, even though we secretly dislike them and wouldn't trade places with them if given the chance? We go out of our way to avoid upsetting others, even though doing so makes us feel resentful and unhappy. Or we spend countless hours scrolling through social media, comparing ourselves to people we do know and whose lives we envy. None of this serves us in the long run. It only distracts us from what truly matters. And that's where Marcus Aurelius's insight comes in. What does this mean in practice? When you realize this, you can stop blaming yourself and obsessing over things you can't control. But what about other people's opinions? You see, when someone says something negative about us or our work, we don't have to believe them. In the modern world, we still use similar strategies to cope with uncertainty. So how can we apply these Stoic insights to our everyday lives? We can also try to shift our mindset by reframing our thoughts. Another way to stop caring what others think is to cultivate inner confidence. Finally, practicing gratitude for what we have can help us appreciate our blessings and reduce our desire for more, which can lead to less comparison with others. Now I want to share a personal story that illustrates this concept. However, things changed when I started reading Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. As a result, I experienced a sense of inner peace and contentment that I had never felt before. And that's where the Stoics had a completely different approach. By embracing obstacles, we can turn negative experiences into positive ones and ultimately live a more fulfilling and meaningful life. Another approach is to break down large obstacles into smaller, more manageable steps. If you enjoyed this video,